From the heart of Kananga in the Democratic Republic of the Congo came Martin Bakole, a mountain of a man, a fighter forged through hardship and relentless training, bringing with him the accolades of being a former WBC International and IBO Continental Heavyweight Champion, a true heavyweight force of nature, whose very presence in the ring sends ripples of tension through the crowd. Standing across from him, the unbeaten American phenom Jared, the real big baby, Anderson of Toledo, Ohio. Youthful and confident, carrying the flag of modern American boxing, draped in expectation, and already wearing the WBO International Heavyweight crown with the swagger of a man destined for greatness, until now. The instructions from the referee were formalities: clean fight, obey commands, protect yourselves at all times. But under the lights of Baymaw Stadium, it was clear from the first second that something far more violent and unpredictable was about to unfold, as Anderson immediately sought to dictate pace using his quicker feet, dipping in and out of range, snapping his jab, slamming combinations to Bakole's midsection, and testing the bigger man's ability to absorb speed and movement. But Bakole remained unmoved, statuesque, calm, and almost indifferent to the punches, watching closely, absorbing data, waiting for the perfect moment to remind the world why his nickname strikes fear across the division. Then, like thunder cracking through silence, it happened. Bakole, seeing a small gap in Anderson's rhythm, launched a monstrous left hook that was followed instantly by a heavy right hand, and in a stunning moment that sent shockwaves through the audience, Jared Anderson went down, crashing to the canvas for the first time in his professional career, his eyes wide, his pride bruised, and the reality of facing a true heavyweight monster now impossible to ignore. Though he beat the count and rose defiantly, the fight had changed, and Anderson, though courageous, now carried the burden of urgency, trying to reset his game plan, using more angles, relying on his trainer Sugar Hill Steward's advice to stay off the ropes and pepper Bakole with uppercuts. But the Congolese beast continued his march forward, undeterred, throwing short, sharp punches that dug into the ribs, looping overhands that sent sweat flying, and punishing right hands that reminded everyone just how dangerous he was, especially when he closed the distance. Anderson began mixing in southpaw stances, slipping punches going to the body, but the pressure from Bakole was suffocating. He was like a tank that refused to slow, pushing Anderson to the edges of a ring, trapping him, and forcing uncomfortable exchanges where only one man seemed to land with consistent authority. And yet, to his credit, Anderson fought back valiantly, showing maturity beyond his years, threading jabs through tight spaces, landing slick counter hooks, and at times even controlling the tempo with clean combinations. But every time he found momentum, Bakole would explode with another barrage, a right hand here, an uppercut there, and the thudding echo of glove-on flesh reminded the audience that this was no ordinary fight. This was a war between two men refusing to yield. The arena was electric as round after round unfolded with increasing intensity, each frame a violent chess match between youth and experience, speed and strength, mobility and mass. Anderson's coaches screamed from a corner for him to stay focused, keep his hands up, use his legs, stay off the ropes, but the ring began to feel smaller and smaller as Bakole imposed his will, cutting it off like a veteran, cornering his opponent, and unleashing short, tight combinations that sapped Anderson's stamina and forced him to bite down on his mouthpiece just to stay upright. The exchanges grew wilder as fatigue set in, both men throwing bombs, both absorbing punishment that would end lesser fighters, and still they fought on. Anderson trying to circle and survive, to box and jab, to breathe through the chaos, while Bakole kept pushing forward with that frightening consistency, digging into the body, snapping the head back with monstrous uppercuts, and chasing a finish that seemed inevitable every time he pinned Anderson against the ropes. This wasn't just a test of boxing skill, it was a test of character, of endurance, of grit under fire, and Anderson, for all his youth and promise, was being pushed to the very edge of his soul, forced to answer questions that only the greatest are ever asked inside the squared circle, while Bakole, often overlooked and underestimated, was proving to the world that he wasn't just a gatekeeper or a stepping stone. He was a destroyer, a man capable of breaking spirits and shattering narratives. As the later rounds loomed, both fighters looked worn, their faces marked with swelling, their bodies aching from the relentless exchanges, yet neither one quit, and as the bell rang to start each round, they came forward again like gladiators destined to collide, every punch carrying the weight of pride, pain, and pressure. In the final moments of the bout, the crowd on its feet, the sweat-soaked warriors traded in the center of the ring, Anderson still searching for space, still believing in his technique, and Bakole pressing forward with the cold, ruthless focus of a man who knew he had shaken the division. Whether or not Anderson survived the storm was only half the story. What mattered was that both men gave everything, and what began as a showcase ended as a legendary battle, a war of attrition, skill, and sheer willpower that elevated both fighters and left the audience breathless, witnessing not just a contest of fists, but a brutal,